We're learning the Sikha, the first Sikha on Parshas Balak in Chelek Chavches on page 157. The Shir today is being learned to Lenishmas, Rabbi Yosef ben Yamin ben Rabbi Menashe Kaltman. In Pasik, Vayakom Bilam Babayker, Vayachvesh Esasainai, Vayelech Imsari Moyav. The Pasik in this week's Parsha where it says that Bilam wakes up in the morning and he saddles his donkey and he goes with the ministers of Moyav. Rashi of the Verter, Vayachvesh Esasainai, so Rashi quotes the three words, and he saddled his donkey. When his Mefarish, and Rashi explains, Mikan, from here we learn, Shasine Mikalkeles Asashura, that hatred causes one to distort what's in a straight path. Shechavash hu ba'atzmai, that here Bilam himself is saddling his donkey. Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says, Rasha, Kfar Kodmach Avraham Aviyim, wicked man, Avraham Avinu already did this before you. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Vayashkem Avraham Babayker Vayachvesh es Chamayre, that Avraham Avinu gets up in the morning and he himself saddles his donkey. His l'chayre nitten ganzen glattik. So this Rashi is seemingly not entirely smoothly understood. Bilam hat es getan, wie Rashi haibtam, mitzat sinne, zu Yidden und sinne, mekalkeles es ashura. What Bilam did was as a result of his hatred to Yidden, and hatred distorts the straight path and the normal behavior of a person. On the Hemshech, Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rasha Kfar Kodmach Avraham Aviyem, but then Hashem's response, as Rashi continues, that Hashem says that Avram already did this before you, Kodmach, that this Avram did before. Red wegen Aratzen Mekayim Zayin Sivi Hashem. Here we're speaking about Avram Avinu's will and enthusiasm to rush to himself fulfill the will of Hashem. So how are we comparing and saying that what Avram did was Kodmach is similar to what Bilam did and comes before what Bilam did? That minion from Sinema Kalkelas Ashura by Bilam, this point about hatred distorting the straight and normal behavior of a person that we see by Bilam, Gefintmen and Natsal Erte B'Chazal. We find this in a number of places in the Gemara and in Medrash and so on. But the Hemshech, Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Chuluvi and Pirish Rashi, but the continuation, how Hashem responds, Vert gebracht nar in Medrash Sheifanart. This is only quoted here in Medrash on this pasuk, and V'zel Shoyne. This is what it says in the Medrash. Vayash came, he got up early in the morning, Kodam v'omad bizrizus, he got up with alacrity. Hu ba'atzmai, it was he himself. So Amalek Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem tells him, Rasha Kfar Kodmach Avraham Avinu Lakadis Yitzchak Benai. Avraham Avinu was already before you when it came to take his son Yitzchak to the Akedah. Shenema Vayashkem Avraham Babayke Vayachvash es Chamayre. And Avraham Avinu got up early in the morning to saddle his donkey. So now, regarding this Medrash, there's a detail that it says that Rashi does not mention. In Medrash, so in the words of the Medrash, you can seemingly interpret and understand as the Adgoshe is of Mailas Hazrizas Bizman. What's being highlighted here is in the way Bilam gets up with enthusiasm, with alacrity in the morning, and in the time, right and early in the morning. Then the Medrash adds in as a second point that he saddled the donkey by himself. Which is expressed by the fact that he gets up early in the morning. Ultimately, Hashem did tell Bilam, get up and go with them. Had Bilam gemeint, so Bilam was thinking, as b'schuzeh was evet mekayim zayin tzivi Hashem leich bezrizus, that by fulfilling and in the merit of fulfilling the command of Hashem to go with them with alacrity, vetzachim eingeben lekal es Yisrael, he will succeed in cursing the Yidden. Unchach as mitchila hat es the Rebbe nit gewollt, although initially Hashem did not want this. Is Shema afatenovi Yisratze, as he said, I will persuade him, I will convince Hashem. Salib schus has rizus. And he was thinking that the merit of his alacrity in fulfilling the command of Hashem will help him. One of them, and it's to this that Hashem responds and tells him, as in them minyan azrizus, regarding alacrity and the enthusiasm in fulfilling the will of Hashem, kfar kodmach Avraham Aviyem, that Avraham Avinu already did this before you. That's how you could explain it. The Medrash is focusing on the zrizus to fulfill a mitzvah. In Pirish Rashi wird im Ganzen nicht geredet wegen Zrizos. Rashi, though, does not mention anything about alacrity or befrat bisman, especially in the time that he got up early in the morning. Und der Adgosh is not from Chavash hu ba'atzmai. The thing that Rashi points out is the fact that he himself, being the great prophet Bilam, goes ahead and saddles his donkey. Und as das kommt nor mitzat sinema kalkalis asura, that it's a result of his hatred that distorts his normal behavior. Is nicht move on, so it's not understood. Was war as a chus hat Bilam gemeint zu haben durch a pole welche kommt mitzat sinne? What kind of merit was Bilam thinking that he would gain by doing this action that just comes as a result of hatred? Zois va'oid. This question and furthermore. If you take a look back now into the Medrash, looking back and analyzing the words of the Medrash, you can see as Eiche Medrash kemenet einlein in dem Pirish Anal. And in the Medrash, you also cannot explain, as suggested before, as Bilam's cheshbon is given, as tzlib zaim zrizet v'teken sagen heipach habrachas. That because of his alacrity to fulfill the will of Hashem, he will have the ability to say opposite of blessings. Because in Medrash, kommt die drosha na behemshech zu dem was retzach frie. The Medrash says this following the point that it says before. In the pathway that a person desires to go, that's where Hashem leads him. In the beginning, Hashem tells him, do not go. So Bilam had the audacity to decide that he does want to go. Halach. So he went. Hashem was angry with the fact that he's going. So Amalek Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem tells him, Rasha, Eini Chafetz Bi'ibudam Shel Rishoyim, that Hashem says, I do not desire to destroy the ones that are wicked. But Hoyel Va'at Reitzel Leilech Le'avid Min Ha'olam, you are going and you want to cause those to be destroyed in this world. Kom Leich, get up and go. And whatever I will tell you to say, that's what you'll have to say. This teaches that he went and he was warned in advance that what will be the outcome if he goes. And immediately he got up early in the morning and he went, and the Medrash goes on to say that Bilam himself got up with Zrizas in the morning, Kanal as quoted before. So what's the context here in the words of the Medrash? So the fun is move on. You see here from the words of the Medrash, as ein kavana dabei is nit gewen mitzat zrizus and kiyum tzivi Hashem. His intention with getting up early in the morning wasn't that he was looking for a merit to fulfill the command of Hashem quickly with alacrity. Adarabe, on the contrary, the form was the Rebbe hat ihm gewarnt, that is, gesagt. Hashem warns him and tells him, Hoyel va'at reitzel leilech liyavid min ha'olam kum leich. You want to go and be destroyed from this world, so go in that pathway. Had Bilam klar gewusst, as ein gain is heipach tzivi Hashem. That means that Bilam clearly knew that what he's going to do, is to destroy himself, opposite of the command of Hashem. So we can't say that the point there in the Medrash is that Bilam was looking to get a merit in what he's doing here. Now, Afa Pikain, however, yet, what man in Medrash gekent einlernen bedeuche Godlal Kalpanim. It would be possible to explain the words of the Medrash, although it's with great difficulty, but you could say that what the Medrash is saying is as follows. As Izrizes from Bilam is given al derech v'yatnue from mafke zayin nafshay. The alacrity of Bilam was similar to this concept of him just giving up and sacrificing his entire soul, being ready to be lost and to be destroyed just for this purpose. Benigut to Mesiris Nefesh mitzad hakdusha. This is the contrast, or the opposite of one that gives up his life in holiness. As Chach, the Rebbe hat him gesagt, as geht liyavid min ha'olam, that although Hashem warned him that what he's going will eliminate him. Is a gegangen bis Rizos. He went with this alacrity, mit dem gemeint mamshach sein of sich koiches atuma v'chulu. And by doing this, he thought that he will bring and draw onto himself the powers of impurity to assist him in what he's doing. One of them, Amalek Kadosh Baruch Hu, so Hashem tells him, Rasha karkodmach Avraham Aviyam. Avraham Avinu did this before you. In the Mesiris Nefesh from Laka, the Yitzchak Benoi, when he came with self-sacrifice to come and bring his own son Yitzchak, was in a prat gresser wie Mesiris Nefesh sich ba'atzmai. In a certain aspect, that bringing one son for the Akedah, the case of Yitzchak, is greater than this act of Mesiris Nefesh that Bilam is doing or exhibiting, trying to bring the powers of Tumah in what he's doing. That's what the Medrash is talking about here, and this could be put into the words of the Medrash, although B'doiche Gadol, that it's speaking, since the Medrash is speaking about the Zrizus, it's this Zrizus and Mesiris Nefesh, and Hashem tells them that Avram Avinu's Mesiris Nefesh is much greater than his. However, regarding what Rashi says here, is Aleph number 1, Kanal Reta Bechlal Nid Wegen Zrizus. Rashi doesn't bring up the subject of the alacrity or enthusiasm. Rashi does not quote from the pasuk that Bilam gets up early in the morning. The second point is Rashi does not quote this point that Hashem tells and warns Bilam that he's going to a place where he'll be eliminated. On the contrary, Rashi Rashi says earlier, when it says Hashem tells them if they are calling you, this is a calling for your behalf. And you think that you'll be rewarded for this, get up and go with them. So here we see that, on the contrary, Bilam thought that he's going in order to gain reward, not an act of self-sacrifice. Gimel, is nicht nefaret, as das ist verbunden mit dem, was Avram holach laka des Yitzchak. When Rashi brings the pasuk by Avram, Rashi only quotes the beginning. Vayashkem Avram abayke vayachvashes chamoire. Rashi does not quote the fact that Avram is going for an act of Mesiris Nefesh to bring his son Yitzchak for Anakeda. The wonder in looking at the words of Rashi becomes even greater. This concept that hatred will distort going in the straight path, and love also distorts normal behavior. This is given by Avram, as it was in the case of Avram. This is brought in a few places in Chazal. Aleph, in Gemara, from pasuk Vayakem Bilam Babayke Vayachvashes Asayne. The Gemara quotes the pasuk that Bilam gets up in the morning and saddles his donkey. Zok to Rab Shimon ben Elazar, and Rab Shimon ben Elazar says, "Ava mevateles shura shel gedula mi Avram." Love will nullify the normal behavior even of great people, as we see by Avram. The pasuk says, "Vayashkem Avram Babayke," that Avram gets up early in the morning. Sina mevateles shura shel gedula. Hatred will also nullify the normal behavior of great ones, and that's mi Bilam. As we see by Bilam, Shanema Vayakam Bilam Babayke Vayachvashes Asayne, that he gets up in the morning to saddle his donkey. So that's the language of the Gemara. So what do we see here? Aber, however, it's not like what it says in Rashi. Because one, the Gemara retnit wegen Kodmach Avram. The Gemara does not make that point that Hashem is responding to Bilam, that what you did, Avram already did the same before you. Two, the Lashon in Gemara Sina mevateles shura shel gedula. The Gemara is using a different expression. Hatred will nullify the normal behavior of great ones. Is nitvi in Rashi or Medrash? It's not like the expression Rashi or the Medrash says mikalkeles hashura, that it will distort the normal behavior. Now, another place where this is quoted, Beis in Medrash. The Medrash says Avam mikalkeles hashura d'chsiv vayashkem Avram babayke v'gaymer. And then the Medrash goes on to describe, didn't Avram have servants to do this job for him, to saddle his donkey? Love distorts the normal behavior. And the sin of Mekalkeles Asashura, Shanema Vayakem Bilam Babayke Vayachvashes Asaynai, did he not have his servants to saddle his donkey? Ella Sina Mekalkeles Asashura. The hatred distorted his behavior, and he went and did it himself. And following this, the Medrash says, Omer Rab Shimon ben Yochai, Tovoi Chavasha v'tamoid al Chavasha. May the one saddling, come and stand up against the other saddling. Tovoi Chavasha shechavish Avram avinu leilech v'lasis ritzayni shel makim shel mi she'ama v'haya ha'olam. Let the saddling of Avram Avinu that went and was going to fulfill the will of Hashem, the will of the one that created the world. And Vayishlach Avram es yadav v'gaymer, and Avram Avinu stretched out his hand for the Akedah. And v'tamoid al chavasha shechavash Bilam leilach lekal es Yisrael. And it'll stand up against this that Bilam went to, and he saddled himself his donkey to go and curse Yidden. That's what the Medrash says following this, that Avram saddles the donkey itself. So here in the Medrash, we see the same content as Rashi says that Avram already did this before. The Medrash is saying that his saddling stands up against Bilam's. However, Rashi still is saying something even more. Because Rashi sagt, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Rasha Kvar Kodmach, that wicked person, look, already before you, Avram, Kvar Kodmach, he did this that you're doing now, he did this before you. Was meint, as the Vayachvash Sasainai is given mit hakavana miyuchedes mitzad Bilam. So that is implying that when Bilam saddles his donkey, there was a unique intention that Bilam had with this. Was them is given the enfer kvar kodmach. That this, the exact act and the way you're doing it with your kavana, it's this that Avram already did this before. The one saddling stands up against the other. This expression does not indicate that the act of Bilam had a unique thing that he was focusing on, and then Hashem tells him that this that you're focusing on, Avram already did before. It's just one against the other, but they're not necessarily similar in nature. So therefore our question remains on Rashi, which is quoting this, not like it says in the Gemara, not like it says in the Medrash, but with this expression, kvar kodmach, which is implying that there was a unique kavana that Bilam had. What is this? So we can say the explanation on this is as follows. Balak had gedungen Bilam kedei l'cha no araliyas al-mazeh. Balak comes and hires Bilam to go and to curse this nation. But following the fact that he sees that Hashem does not allow him to go, and then at the end Hashem does tell him, only what I will speak to you, this is what you will do. Is das was afa became vayelech Bilam, the fact that Bilam goes anyways, maybe I will persuade and convince Hashem to curse, God forbid a Yid. And how will he accomplish this? Other durch mekatek sein of Yidden, or by pointing out the negativity regarding the Yidden. Al derech wie Rashi sagt weiter, as Rashi says later, as nachdem wie Bilam hat gesagt, hat gesehen, as der Rebster lo yachbetz lekalam, when he sees that Hashem does not want to curse the Yidden, and if I care to bench and say Hashem wants Yidden to be blessed, und Bilam atzmai hat es getan zweimal, and after Bilam himself already benched the Yidden twice, hat gesagt, asker avenisayim, let me bring up and remind their sins. And the curses will then come and be here regarding their sins. As Rashi says, what Bilam attempted to do when it says that he looked towards the desert, that it means what it says in the Targum. And the Targum says, that Bilam looked and focused on this, that the Yidden sinned with the golden calf in the midbar, in the desert. He mentioned and reminded of the sin with the golden calf. That's what Bilam's strategy was. So based on this, we can explain here regarding this, that Bilam gets up to saddle his donkey himself. And there pu'ula, from chavash hu ba'atzmai, that he saddles himself the donkey, is given a tam golui. There is the open and clear reason that he's doing this, because sinna mekalkelas v'chulu, it's his hatred that distorts his behavior, that he's doing it himself. But there's something more that's in this. Bilam is the chabe gevena kaisim. Bilam was a sorcerer. He's doing this with a unique and hidden intention and purpose. Mit sein kilkel ashuda hat gemeint zu mekatek sein of Yidden. By him behaving in this distorted manner, with this, doing it himself, he was looking to show the negativity of the Yidden's behavior. Durch Andeiten of the alle Anhages von Yidden in Midbar, to show and demonstrate or remind of the bad behavior of the Yidden in the desert, was then a given in a meifel from Kilkal Ashura, which was also distorting and going away from the straight path. Und damit herausbringen dem Hepech ha'avach has v'shalom von Yidden to the Meibischen, and by this to bring up the opposite of love that there is from the Yidden to Hashem, God forbid, ubemele von Eibischen to Yidden, and as a result also from Hashem to the Yidden. That was his hidden kavanah that he was doing here when he was doing this himself, mekalkelas asashure, to remind Hashem about the Yidden's behavior, also in a similar vein to veer off the straight path. Now, with this we can understand how Rashi could say this expression that Hashem says, that what you're doing with your intention here, Avram, their ancestor, already did this before you. as ein Kitruk durch der Mannen, die Anhages von Israel, kann it chal sein. That this that he's looking to prosecute and to remind of the negative behavior of Yidden will not take effect. Because Avraham Avinu already did this before. He also saddled his donkey himself, his love, distorted his normal behavior. So therefore the merit of Avram doing this will not allow that hidden intention that Bilam had by saddling the donkey himself as a result of his hatred that distorts to accomplish anything, to remind Hashem of the bad condition of what Yidden did. And as we see this as it plays out in the continuation of the Parsha, that constantly it's being mentioned again and again the merit of our ancestors that there is for the Yidden. Both when Bilam is going in his way, both in his words and in his actions. That he constantly was attempting to measure himself up to and to outdo the actions and the merits of our ancestors. And similar also we see this in his blessings, was wie Rashi bringt, as Rashi himself says later, from his blessings we can see what was in the heart of this Rasha in his intention to curse them. Furthermore, Nitnar hat sein Kitruk be'inyin zeh. Sinne mekalkeles hashura nit gekent chal sein mitzad dem schus von Avram. Not only was this negativity and his hatred that distorts did not have any ability to bring that it couldn't take effect because of the great merit of Avram. Novibalt as avim mekalkeles hashura. The opposite, because love distorts normal behavior, is given in Yonai Shel Avram Aviem. This was what Avram was all about. Is das euch gekommen bi Yerusha lebanav achrov. This kind of behavior of Avram Avinu is something which is inherited by all of Avram Avinu's descendants. Das was lefa'amim hat getroffen, and therefore what this means is that from time to time it could happen, and it did happen. As by Zay is that anhage given nit by that their behavior does not reflect this deep love that they have for Hashem on this high level, like by Avram. Or even if it was the opposite in their behavior, is by Zay nar adav chitzaini. That's something temporary and external. It's not their nature, God forbid, and it's not their habit. On the contrary, the Yidden have an inheritance and its nature of love for Hashem, a great level of love that will distort even their normal behavior for the sake of this love for Hashem. And therefore, the attempt of Bilam to utilize his distorted behavior to remind of this, that the Yidden also veered off their straight path, did not work. Could not take effect because of the level that Yidden are on and the inheritance that we have from our forefathers. From the wondrous matters that we can see here in the words of Rashi. Regarding this subject of hatred distorting normal behavior, or love distorting normal behavior. The Medrash brings two examples, side by Ave and side by Sinne, both regarding love and regarding hatred. By Ave, bringt the Medrash die Dugma now von Avram. Regarding love, the Medrash brings the example from Avram. Onoich von Yosef. But it also brings the example by Yosef, Shenema, Vayeser, Yosef Merkavtai, and Yosef, it ties in his wagon, and Vayal Likras Yisrael Aviv, and he travels, goes up towards his father Yisrael to meet Yaakov Avinu when he's coming down to Mitzrayim. And the Medrash says, V'cheli Yosef kama avodim. Did Yosef not have servants to do this for him? This is another example where love distorts normal behavior. By Sinne bringt and then regarding hatred, the Medrash brings, Neisef of dem Dugme from Bilam, and in addition to the example of Bilam, euch die Dugme from Pare. It brings the example of Pare as well. When Pare is chasing Yidden after he let them out of Mitzrayim. So it says again that Pare himself ties his wagon. Did he not have many slaves to do this for him? His hatred distorted his normal behavior. So there's two examples for both love and hatred that point this out. Euch Mechilte redt sich wegen demselben Teichen. The Mechilte speaks about the same content. Mit dieselbe vier Dugma is quoting the same four examples, aber nicht beloshen aves sinne mekalkeles ashura. But here the Mechilte does not use this expression of love or hatred, distorting normal behavior. Nor beloshen, rather it uses it in this language. Arba osru besimcha, 4 tied with joy. Avram asa besimcha, Avram tied and prepared his travel himself with joy. Shenema vayashkim gomer, that he gets up himself. Ela l'chavod hamakom, he was doing this for the honor of Hashem. Yosef asa besimcha, Yosef ties his wagon himself with joy. Shenema vayaser ela l'kavod David, doing this for the honor of his father. And Bilam asa besimcha, Bilam as well did this with joy. Shenema, and Pare asa besimcha chulu, and Pare also joyously went and tied his wagon. So we see that the Medrash, or the Mechilte rather, is not using any term of mikalkeles ashura that's distorting, but it just says that it was all done with an enthusiasm and joy. The difference in content in these expressions is, see, the pu'ula is mitzad mikalkeles ashura, whether we're saying that there's something over here that's abnormal, distorting normal behavior, or this is a joy for honor and similar, is as follows. When it's something that's being done is distorting normal behavior, whether for love or because of hatred, is das ha'pu'ula verbunden mit kilkel, nit mit tikkun. The word kilkel also means to destroy, the opposite of correcting and rectifying. But the language used when it says that we're talking about the joy to do with enthusiasm for the honor of Hashem is a smadgish. This is emphasizing different. As das is a pu'ula shel simcha shel kavod hamakom or the kavod aviv. That this is an act with great joy for the honor of Hashem, or by Yosef for kibbutz, for the honor of his father. Well, derech zeh lehepech when it gets to Bilam uParei, and the joy that there was in the case of Bilam and Parei. But it doesn't point out that there's anything on the level of kilkel to destroy, or something distort and then destroy, opposite of tikkun. The Yeshloimar, so we can say, as the nafkamina bezel halacha is, the relevance of this for halacha is as follows. Tziyevden is da achiyav gomer. Are we talking over here about something that this could be considered to be a full obligation? Men is mechuyev bekavod hamakom aviv v'chulu. Is this something that one is obligated in the honor of Hashem, in this case, to follow what Hashem wants, or the honor of the father by Yosef? Or if it's a real obligation, so any obligation, any mitzvah fulfilled has to be done with joy. So this is not something which is abnormal. This is not something which is the opposite of what is intended to be done. Adarabah, this is a command, and therefore has to be done with simcha. By contrast, the expression of lekalkal means that this is something which is not expected. It's not an obligation. This is an abnormal behavior. So therefore, from here we can take out, regarding these cases, to understand whether this is an obligation or not. But there's more to it in the difference of these expressions, as the Rabbi here brings. In Pirish Rashi ala Teireh, so now if you take a look in what Rashi says, Hagam as bei alle vier Fallen is a madgish derselben Nekude, but in all 4 cases quoted here, Rashi does highlight the same point, as Yevon as Giton Alain, that they themselves went and saddled and prepared their travel. Not through any servant, is that Rabbi Mishane and Zeir L'Shainis. However, Rashi in each one of these places changes his language that he explains this concept. By Avram is a mefarish, vayachveshu ba'atzmoi, v'loitzivo le'echad ma'avodav, shaha'ava mekalkeles ashura. Regarding Avram, Rashi says that he saddled the donkey himself. He didn't ask any of his slaves to do it. Love distorts normal behavior. On al derech zeh betzad ha'havchi in a minyan von sinah mekalkeles ashura by Bilam in Beparsha Seinu. Similar, Rashi says here regarding Bilam that his hatred distorted his behavior. Aber by Yosef in Zok Rashi, when it comes to Yosef, there Rashi says, "Hu atzmoi aser es hasusim lemerkave," that he himself tied his horses to the wagon, lehis dares lekaved Daviv, to go quickly for the honor of his father. Doesn't mention anything about mikalkeles asashura. Al derech via mechilte. This is similar to the mechilte that speaks about the joy. By Parai is in mefarish blois hu ba'atzmoi. When Parei chased the Yidden, Rashi just points out that Parei ties the wagon himself. So that's haste. So what we have here is as follows. By Avram, we'll have by Bilam, both by Avram and to separate. By Bilam is this that from Kilkal Ashur. In both cases, this is distortion of normal behavior. Mashenken by Yosef is that in your phone, Kovid Aviv. Al derech zal avda by Pare. When it comes to Yosef, this is being done without any distortion, but for the honor of his father, and similar to separate regarding Pare, Kanal, as quoted as we see here. So what do we understand from Rashi regarding this? Regarding these four cases? Well, Pizez, move on. With this, we can understand as follows. Aleph, number one, was Rashi is madgish beparshasenu mikan shastinu mekalkeles asashure. It's from here, by Bilam, where we learn that hatred distorts normal behavior. But what is he emphasizing with the mikan? Was the mitment that Sheila Zayin? With this, Rashi wants to negate as the vayes or is richpai hubatzmoi by Paroi, when he tied his wagon, he himself, Paroi, is nid given vishitas hamedrish an inyan shal kilkel. This was not, as the Medrash refers to it, something which was a distortion. Now, adarabba acheshbin shal revach gadol. Paroi was making his calculation that he may have a great gain here. And that is kedei to poil zayin al kol avodav as all midgame with him, in order to convince all of his people, his slaves, to come and join him to chase Yidden. Virashi zogdat behemshich pirusha as amay lokach imay, that he took his people along with him. How? How did he do this? Moshcham bidvarim. He took them. He persuaded them with words. He said, "Lakinu, we got all the makkos, all the plagues. V'natlu mimaynenu. They took our money. V'shalachtim chulu, and then we sent them. We let them go free." And so, how can we allow this? And ani lo yisnai gemachim ksham alachim chulu. I'll not be like other kings that stays behind. Rather, ani aktim lefnechem v'chulu. I'll go ahead of all of you. So this was his great gain, that he thought that with this he'll convince people to join him. Or to try to get back the money that he didn't have. So therefore over here, this is not cinema kalkelis asashura at all. Pei is another point we could see here from the way Rashi says this in his language in the four different cases. Favaz brengt Rashi nid b'siyim pirushay da b'parshasenu as kodmach Avraham Avinu Aviem lakoid es Yitzchak benoi. Rashi does not quote, as it says it in the Medrash, the conclusion that Avraham was before you when he went to the Akedah for his son Yitzchak. Rashi just quotes the beginning of the pasuk Vayach v'shos chamoyrei. Be a Medrash, as it says it in the Medrash. V'haloit Rashi is the Yadgosh da after inyan von Ava mekalkeles es Ashura. According to Rashi, what we're focusing on over here is the distortion, that love distorts regular behavior. In it, that sivui, chiyuvi, lakat chula. And we're not focusing on the merit of a mitzvah. In the Medrash, it focuses on the fact that he did it b'simcha, as an obligation, as a mitzvah, and he's doing the mitzvah with the proper approach of Ivdu as Hashem b'simcha. However, Rashi is focusing on the vayachvoish, which is the mekalkeles, the fact that there's a distortion in behavior by Avraham Avinu. From Yeina Shal Torah and Pirish Rashi, the wine of Torah, the deeper understanding, according to Chassidus, that we can see in the words of Rashi. The Teichel von ganz Parshas Balak is, what is the content of the entire Parsha of Balak is V'layava v'aylekachel shmoya el Bilam, that Hashem does not want to listen to Bilam's wishes, and Hashem transforms the curse into a blessing, because of Hashem's love to you. Das ist die Nikude Tichayna von alle Prate Asipa wegen Bilam Chulu. This is the central point about all the details here that it says in the story of Bilam, which all highlight one point, transforming a curse into a blessing. So moving it's understood as euch das was the Torah that zählt wegen dem Sinna mekalkeles as Ashura from Bilam, and the fact that the Torah relates this part of the story, that his hateful behavior or his hate distorted his normal behavior, is euch der Far, but das ist zelieb der Bracha. The point of this is because this is all going to be for a blessing. The explanation of this is Avodas ha'adam b'chlolus is in the zwei kavim von sur meira und nasei tov. In general, a person's avodah is divided into the two categories of staying away from what's bad and being active and doing what's good. Sur meira kut mitzadem sinat tzura. Staying away from what's bad is because of a person's hatred, the things that are bad. So, which means to alle in yonim that includes any matters that are the opposite of the will of Hashem. When I say toiv, then doing good mitzad ha'avar Hashem as a result of one's love for Hashem. Ki ha'mekaymon be'emes, as Alter Rebbe Tanya says, who's the one that fulfills a mitzvah truthfully? Hu ha'ev is Shem Hashem v'chavetz dafka be'emes, one that loves the name of Hashem and desires to cleave to Him with truth. Und in dem guf is da chilukim. And in this, there are distinctions, there are levels. Asine on mi is berav versus bagbala. There's one that has an hatred and a disgust with what's bad, which is limited. On Azayach Avas Hashem, Balak1, one that loves Hashem with a certain level of limitation. On Asiner Velachis is Shaloi Balak1, or when one hates and it's an unlimited hatred. Shaloi Kefi Ashura, not what's in the straight normal path. On Al Derech Zan Ave Rabal Hashem Shaloi Kefi Ashura, a tremendous love to Hashem that's not normal. Hecher Mimedid Balak1, higher than any limitations. The Indian says Rashi Madgish, so here what Rashi is emphasizing is that the Ave Bilti Mugbelis von Ayidin, zu Mekayim Zayin Ratzon Hashem, the unlimited love of a Yid to fulfill the will of Hashem, biz as the Kiyam HaMitzvahs Shaloi Alpi Medidav Agbala V'Cheshbon, to the point that his actual fulfillment of the mitzvah is being done without any limitation or without calculations. Where does this come from? Kommt von Avram Aviyam. This nature in a Yid, this ability comes from Avram, their ancestor. Vasavasil Hashem is given hecher from Medide Ugvul. His love for Hashem was also beyond any boundaries and without any limits. Ava Mikalkelis is Ashura, the love that distorts the normal behavior. Was the far is Hanagase given, Vayashkem Avram Babeke Vayachvesh es Chamayre. This affects the way he fulfills a mitzvah when he wakes up early in the morning and saddles the donkey himself. Vibalt as Kodmach Avram Avinu. And since Avram Avinu becomes first in this kind of behavior, hat es gepeilt, what this caused is, as nit not, hat Bilam Sinem Mekalkelis as Ashura, nit ga'atem koyach zu geidim seiner Kitrik of Yidden, that not only was Bilam's behavior in his hatred to go off the normal behavior, which tried to inspire and bring the negative behavior of Yidden to light, not only did this not work, nor Adarab, on the contrary. Das hat Peil given und gegeben dem Koyach, this caused and this gave the power as euch bei Yidden soll sein, the Sinne Mekalkeles as Ashura, that by Yidden that should be utilized, this kind of behavior of hatred that causes a distortion to the normal behavior, and hatred to what? The Sinne Tzura, udvarim bilter itzoyim, by Fishel tachlis ha-sinne, to hate and reject evil things that are against the will of Hashem with the absolute and ultimate level of rejection. And therefore to negate and to be careful with anything that's not in the will of Hashem is to the absolute degree, even beyond normal behavior, above any boundaries. That's what Yidden took and got from what Bilam attempted to do. Und die zwei Erfahrungen, these two approaches, and nitna benegeya kiyama mitzvahs. It's not only regarding fulfilling mitzvahs or meirav asitoiv, whether regarding staying away from negative or doing good mitzad hagavra, that's in the attitude of the person. Not euch ubeshayches zu their oif to welt, but additionally and also in their relationship and how they are affecting the world around them. Und wie mir is in die Psukim gufa. And this is hinted in the Psukim here itself by Avram Shteit Vayachvesh es Chamoirei, and he saddles his donkey. What's the significance of the donkey? V'zdas is meramis it hints to the coarse existence of the body. Uketayres Baal Shem Tov Yidua, as the known Vart of Baal Shem Tov said, Kisire Chamoir, when you see the donkey, which means kashetestakel be'iyon ba'achaymer shalcha shehu aguf chulu, when you'll take a close look and analyze and see the coarseness of your physical body. What should be your reaction? Help him, assist him. Which is refine and purify your body, and do not seek to break it with afflictions. Und das ist der Teichen von Vayachvesh es Chamoirei, wie der Shachal HaTeire is mefarish shekovash hachoymer. This is what it means when it says by Avram that he saddled his donkey. So the Shach says that Vayachvesh here means that he conquered that donkey. Nit zu zerbrechen dem Guf, this means not by breaking one's physical body, not zu koivish mevarer sein dem Choymer HaGuf, rather to conquer and to refine and elevate the physical existence. Im Einspannen und Ausnutzen dem Guf and Avedas Hashem, to saddle and to steer it in the right direction to be used to serve Hashem. Und Ausnutzen Valderach zeh, dem Choymer bemoven akloli von dem ganzen Welt. And by extension, this also refers to the existence of the physical existence of the entire world, umilues haaretz, to fill the land, uvikivshua, and to conquer and elevate everything. Die dvarim ametarim from Welt, those permitted things in the world, sollen sie koivish sein und hereinbringen l'reshus hakadusha. They should be conquered and be utilized within the domain of holiness. However, when we speak about the donkey of Bilam, the inyana von Ra, de lo umazeh, gimel, klippes atmeis, things that are evil in the opposite side, in those areas that are complete klippe, was mekenzen it mevares and that cannot be refined, by zeidav zayin de yachas van hoge von sinne mekalkeles es ashura. Here are way to relate to this, and our behavior should be like it was by Bilam, hatred, absolute hatred, which is not even on a normal level of behavior by Fishel, and to reject this existence completely and utterly to push it out. This explanation of what the Avon Mekalkelis Ashure here means is still not sufficient in really getting to the bottom of understanding what this is about. Because the pasuk says, that Hashem says He transformed the curse itself into a blessing. So meintach, what does this mean? As the klala gufe vert nishapach lebracha. That what Hashem accomplished was that the curse itself is what got transformed into a blessing. That even nishapcha, that's a transformation. Zedain is nasale kazachias. When the premeditated sins are now elevated and transformed into being merits. As the Rav vert nishapach l'tov, when evil is transformed into good, unit nor as anstatt the klala is gekommen a bracha. And not only, as was pointed out before, that in the place of the curse comes a blessing, but more so, that the actual curse itself becomes elevated and transformed. So to explain this in the terms of Avedis Adam and serving Hashem. Shura Sadin, these terms being used here, the straight path, the way things are by the letter of the law, meint the way things are happening in the normal and regular organized way that it's supposed to be logically, al pi seder the kedusha, and we're talking about the regular path within holiness. Rashi shura stam. Rashi uses the term shura, that straight line, that straight path. Nit shura shel gedula. Rashi does not mention that this is the straight path of great ones. So this refers to the general straight path that there is in holiness. And if God forbid there is a distortion of what's in the straight path, which is in the negative, mingate that up from the mshura shel kedusha. One goes off the path of holiness. When he sinned and blemished and went off the path. Was das nimmt sich von der sinna? The source of this is because of hatred. The sinna von l'umazeh it's a kedusha, the hatred that the opposite side has to holiness. From Yetzirah to Yetzirah, Yetzirah, his hatred to the Yetzirah, is kedei l'sakenzeh. In order to rectify this, davzayin kilkul hashura litzadatov. It's necessary for there to be, in the opposite, now to have a complete abnormal behavior, but all in the good, in the which is referred to usually, as the Rabbi brings in the footnote, shtus the kedusha, that foolish behavior in a level of holiness, and that's the tshuva me'ava rabba. A tshuva that comes out of a very deep level of love, versus heche from the medida v'agbola from the shura dikdusha. That's greater and higher than any limitation that there is in that straight line, even within holiness. This is the kvarkodmach Avram. This is the deeper understanding of what it means when Rashi says that Avram already came before you with this. Durch der Ava Rabbe, umesiris nefesh von Avram Avinu, through this intense and deep love and self-sacrifice of Avram Avinu, was das kommt b'Yerusha zu kol echad v'echad b'Yisrael. And this is an inheritance by every single year that has this. Is ben mahapach l'kedusha oich di kilkul ashura built yiratzim. We have the power to now even transform into holiness this abnormal behavior that's not wanted. V'lochakum durch di sinner l'kedusha that comes. The hainus, what this means, as in itzaitzi akdusha, was apishura de kedusha, kemen zeinit mevare zayin, those holy sparks that, according to the regular level, what's possible in holiness, they cannot be refined. Warum die nitzaitzi kedusha welche sind herabgefallen in die dvarim haasurim von gimel klippes atmeis, because those holy sparks that have fallen so low into a place of complete klippe and complete impurity, kemen al pitayra nit mevare zayin. According to the normal and regular rules of Torah, they cannot be refined. V'adarab, on the contrary, al pi Torah, darf man ze matche sein. Torah says that they must be completely pushed out and rejected. However, through a very great level and powerful level of tshuva, she tshuva me'ave me'umke de libe, a tshuva coming with love from the depths of the heart of the Yid, which is ba'ave rabbe v'chasheke v'nefesh shekeker l'davka b'yis barach, a deep love with a desire and a yearning to cleave to Hashem. They will also be elevated and transformed into holiness, as the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, as the zidainis mamish. The even premeditated sins are transformed into being merits literally. Does that mean the Inyanim Muflaim in Yeno Shal Teire Shabepirish Rashi? Here we see the wondrous matters that there are within the wine of Teire in Rashi. The ganze Teichen of the Parsha from Balak is, what's the entire content of this Parsha? As Trot them was Balak had gedungen Bilam in Sumekala Zayidin, that although Balak hired Bilam to curse the Yidden, is over the Tetzah is the Fungeven, the outcome though was, nit nor bitul aklolis, not only were these curses annulled, nor nochmer, as the klolis and a gevaran and aniyim von a bracha. Instead, the curses became a blessing. As the pasuk says, that Hashem does not desire to listen to Bilam, and He transforms the curses into blessings out of the love that Hashem has for you. And this is merumes bepirish Rashi, and this all is hinted here in Rashi. Gleich by the erste Po'ula, by the first act, was Bilam al-Gatan that Bilam does here. In the beginning, on his way to go curse Yidden. As there when he saddles his donkey, his hatred that distorted his behavior is gleich in his battle when his hapach geworden. Durch dem was kvarkodmach Avram Aviyem. This was immediately annulled and transformed by this that Hashem tells him that Avram Avinu already did this before you. Through the love, the unlimited love that distorts the normal behavior that Yidden have for Hashem, was the Ava Mamata hot mamshach event. So this love of Yidden here below brought down in the world, kamayim apanim lapanim, like the reflection that there is of a person's face in water when he has his face there, that it brings down the reaction of Hashem above, Hashem transforms as aklola, the curse, lebrach, into a blessing, because Hashem loves you.